All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Thank you guys all for watching. Today we will be doing a game preview and talking a little bit about is Lincoln Riley going to LSU. Obviously, there's been a lot of rumors going around, all even national media, local media, Twitter, whatever you can think of. Those rumors are out there, but we'll discuss it. Is that even possible? Before we get into anything, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate all the support, all the comments. We want to hear what you guys think. So keep doing what you're doing. Like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Turn on the notification bell too. Videos are coming out every week, and you want to know whenever those do get posted. So let's get into it. This weekend we will be playing Iowa State at home. Last game of the season in Norman. It's going to be a big one. Not only is it senior night, but it's probably against the opponent that's always the toughest, no matter outside of Texas, probably the second toughest opponent we have year in and year out recently. No matter the records, the teams always seem to come play, and Iowa State's not going to be an easy W. I don't think anyone expected them to be an easy W at any point in the season, and even with the record they have now, I don't think that anyone should expect this to be an easy one, especially after last week, how the offense looked. Defense looked all right, but we can't say that's going to be consistent for this week. But before I go any longer, Brum, what do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I feel like this is Iowa State. The reason why they've given OU so many problems over the last, 3 or 4 or 5 years is because it's a team that's built perfectly to the Sooners' weaknesses. I mean, we've seen it. It's the hold on to the ball, limit the possessions, play good defense, and that's a winning formula. And I feel like Iowa State has kind of given the blueprint, over the last few years. Really, I'm thinking about when Iowa State came to Norman whenever Baker was still there. Was that 2018, 2017?
2017, I believe, when he threw a game-ending pick.
Yeah, I felt like that was kind of Matt Campbell got it, kind of figured out the formula, and then he's just kind of perfected it. Last year on the road in Ames at a night game, Rattler, young quarterback, and it just made a few mistakes, played ball, controlled the ball and played good defense, and they still scored 30 points. The Sooners did, and but I mean, with Brock Purdy and Charlie Kolar and Breece Hall, Breece Hall has been a kryptonite for the Sooners. You've got a good running back and you can control that clock. It's tough. We saw it last weekend with Baylor. They figured out the running game with the quarterback, Bohannon, and that was their ticket to success. And I feel like they're going to feed Breece Hall. And I also think they're going to feed Charlie Kolar, who is a Norman native. It's a shame that he escaped our backyard, but I don't know if the Sooners thought he was going to be as good as he is. I don't know if there's anyone that can match up with Kolar one-on-one. I still think it back to when Brendan Radley Hiles' bookie was matching up with them, 5'9" versus what Kolar's like 6'4", 6'5", and it's a nightmare. But Key Lawrence might be able to match up with him a little bit better, so you might see Key kind of start following him a little bit more. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. What do you think?
I think you hit it right on the head with them giving kind of the blueprint to beating Oklahoma, or at least competing with us consistently. And if you look back at Iowa State's games this year, if the games that once they got into conference play, the games that were close or they lost, their opponent was able to keep Breece under 100 yards. Last game, they barely won, but he ended up scoring 2 touchdowns. So there was that trade-off. But against Texas, he went over 100. He went for almost 200 against, let me double check. I think it was against TCU. Kansas State. I think he went for almost 200. This dude's very talented. Yeah, against Kansas State, he went for 197 and 2 touchdowns. So that guy, he knows what he's doing when the ball gets handed off to him. And it's going to be interesting to watch. If you guys watch Gabe and Teddy Lehman's podcast, Gabe went off on the lack of a running game and how complicated the running scheme is that's being played at Oklahoma right now. And it's been effective over the last few years. I know he said that it's gotten less and less effective, but I mean, less and less doesn't mean it wasn't effective until this year. I think this year is really when it's shown that it's just not working. And I'm not going to pretend to be a football expert and go on and repeat whatever points he made, because I'm not going to make him as well as he did. But he has a point. We aren't running the ball very much. And like we said last time in our recap of the Baylor game, and we've been saying it along with them, we just aren't running the ball much. It's not that we can't. And I know someone in our comment section last weekend said that we are overhyping Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray. And that may be the case, but they're pretty good, especially Kennedy Brooks. He might not be the best running back in the country, but I'm pretty confident that he can get you at least 80 to 100 yards if you give him the opportunity to do so. And I mean, whenever we won and the offense looked really good, he was doing that. I mean, think back to Texas. We made a comeback because he was able to run the ball. Caleb Williams was able to throw those long bombs to Marvin Mims because Kennedy was able to run the ball. That threat of running the ball isn't just because we have Caleb in, it's because Kennedy has a groove during the game, and the defense needs to respect it. And if we can't do that against Iowa State, then this offense is going to be just as stagnant as it was last weekend.
Yeah. And I mean, really this, everyone thinks of Lincoln Riley as the quarterback guru, which I do agree. But really the key to his offense, it's a run first offense. You have to be able to run the ball for this in order for this to work. And, I remember last year having Spencer Rattler, he first time starting. I felt like we weren't running the ball very well. And we dropped those two games. What was it, Kansas State, and then we dropped to Iowa State, obviously. And it was because we weren't running the ball. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like Riley kind of switched and committed more to the run, and maybe the team kind of gelled together a little bit better, and that might have helped. But as soon as they started running the ball, Spencer Rattler started really finding his groove and really started going. And I don't know if it's just like they almost get overconfident that they don't need to run the ball anymore, like that we try to do in Madden, where all we do is pass, because that works in video games for the most part. But I feel like it just every so often they're getting reminded. I'm willing to bet that Lincoln Riley is going to come out and make it a point this week to run the ball. I think Kennedy Brooks is going to have a big game. Gray, he'll get subbed in. I'd like to see Marcus Major get thrown in there. I mean, we're going into our 11th game, and Brooks and Gray have been playing all year. Major came in against Texas Tech in some garbage time, and other than that, I mean, a few spots here and there, he's hardly played because one, he was ineligible, and two, it just recently hasn't been available other than the Tech blowout. I'd like to see him get some touches because he's fresh. He looked pretty good against Tech. I don't know why. Maybe it's more Brooks and Major and first and second down, and then third down is more of a Gray if we're in a passing situation. So I really think you're going to see the Sooners come out and make it a point. I would not be surprised if the Sooners run for 200 yards as a team this weekend. And I really think if they can come out and do that and establish the run and impose their will, they're going to be all right. Because another thing you have to think about is their defensive ends. You've got Will McDonald, and then the other one, what's his name? He's Owazaruki. I forget how to say his last name, but I mean, those two guys have been a dynamic duo. I mean, I think they've got about 17 and a half sacks combined this season, which is just not a great thing to think about as, with the Sooners. I mean, granted, the offensive line played well last weekend, and they might be able to keep Caleb Williams upright. Even if they do go with a little more of a heavy passing attack. But I think as soon as they establish that run, they're going to keep those defensive ends more honest, and they're going to not be able to pressure Caleb Williams as much. And, that play action is going to really be set up with it. So I really think keeping Will McDonald and Wazariki off of Caleb Williams and keeping them honest with the running attack is going to set up for a big day for the Sooners. I think they will be able to score about 38 points this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, their defense is very good this year. So they rank number 44, or sorry, number 10 in total defense. So these next 2 weeks are going to be big tests for this offense, as well as for the defense, obviously, just because this defense last week, again, when we started the video, I mentioned they had a good showing last week, but can they be consistent? And that's what they need to prove over the next 2 weeks, and hopefully going to the Big 12 championship. But this week and next week, we're going against two top 10 defenses in the country. And if this offense can't figure out how to move the ball, if it's running or throwing, whatever the game plan needs to be, it needs to be done and done very effectively. Because if there's any hope of, I know that a lot of people think that Oklahoma's playoff championships are over, but there's still a small chance. When you look at like the statistics that ESPN puts up, I think Oklahoma still has like a 20% chance of making it to the college football playoff. So it's slim, but it's not completely out. At this point, I feel like it could either be us or Oklahoma State sneaking into the playoffs at the number 4 spot. That's a different conversation. Going back to Iowa State's defense, they do well at keeping their opponents to and keeping it a low scoring game, for especially for their opponents. Last week against Texas Tech was the most points they've allowed all season at 41, and then their loss against West Virginia at 38 points. Other than that, they've kept everyone pretty tame, and they kept Kansas at 7 points. Oklahoma couldn't do that. I know it seems like a little bit of a shot to you, but it's true. It's just facts. They kept them at 7 points, and we couldn't. They kept Texas at 7 points. They kept Kansas State at 20. So they have a good defense. We, like you said, we have to establish a run game. Keep those defensive ends honest, because if we are forcing a pass like we've been doing over the last 2 weeks against Baylor and Tech, those guys are going to have a field day. Expect them to have at least 4 sacks to get combined, at least, because the week against Texas Tech, we ran the ball. Kennedy Brooks ran the ball 8 times. I think they just let Caleb sling the ball, and it worked. All of us were happy. We were celebrating this offense is back. But guys like Gabe were saying, even though we won, you have to look at the lack of running game. And last week it bit us in the ass, and we can't let it happen again this week, especially against Matt Campbell and the Cyclones, because it'll just be that will actually kill the season and probably also destroy the possibility of getting to the Big 12 championship. It'll be a very close race there at the end to even get that far. And I'm okay with not going to the playoffs, but we can't miss the Big 12 championship. We can't get our streak halted at this point, especially after all the drama that was going on during the offseason with the move to the SEC and the guys that got into off the field issues. We just have to prove that this team and Lincoln is still going in the right direction.
Yeah. And you talk, and I actually just thought about this. And this might not mean anything, and I might be thinking about this too much. Do you think that, the hype that Caleb Williams was getting with after the Texas Tech game, do you think that there's a chance that Lincoln was thinking about Caleb Williams' Heisman hopes and was trying to make sure he was going to get all the passing yards and touchdowns that he could get? And, obviously the Tech plan was to come out and throw, and it worked. I know the weakness of Baylor is the, secondary, but I don't, do you think that played any role into the game plan last week? I mean, I certainly hope it wouldn't this week after what happened, but I don't know. There was some weird stubbornness. I'm just trying to put it together.
I hope not. I hope that wasn't his reasoning for being so stubborn. Hopefully he just saw like the secondary is their weak point in the defense, and they might get us a few times, but at some point we're going to crack through. But I agree, he was too stubborn for the entire game. Maybe it played a little bit of a role because obviously it builds onto his resume, having 4 Heisman finalists under his resume, having 4 quarterbacks all being Heisman finalists and one doing it as a true freshman really, really helps that resume, being the quarterback guru.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking of crazy things, but um, yeah, and going back and obviously Iowa State is now 6-4. They haven't lived up to their expectations. Of course, this was the first year that Iowa State football really came in with expectations. I mean, every other year that I can remember within recent memory, there's been no expectations. I mean, last year was just like they hit gold, and then as soon as the expectations came, they kind of stumbled a little bit. Obviously, the Sooners so far, they are kind of somewhat similar in the same boat. This team came in number 2 ranked team in the preseason national championship aspirations. Not that they're gone, but the way this team's looked, it just has not lived up to the hype. And so in that regard, they're similar. Um, you know, Iowa State's coming off a loss, Oklahoma's coming off a loss, but Iowa State is coming off a loss more of a heartbreaking fashion. I mean, 62-yard field goal in college football to lose, even in the NFL, is kind of ridiculous. And OU just got thoroughly dominated and put in their place. And so a little difference there. And I would like to think that on senior day, prime time, after getting embarrassed in prime time last week, I'd like to think the Sooners could come out and really just put it all together and in their first complete game. But I would be naive to say that I'm extremely confident that that's going to happen this weekend. I think it's going to be close because we don't ever seem to blow out really anyone. Occasionally we will have the Kansas or the Texas Tech game, Western Carolina, but every other game has been pretty close and taken years off my life. And I don't expect this one to be any different. And if it is, I'd be extremely impressed. And talking about the playoffs, I really think they can still go 12-1, and a lot of that's enough to get you in the playoffs most years. And if they come out and they dominate Iowa State this weekend, come out and dominate Oklahoma State and dominate Oklahoma State again in the Big 12 championship, and you start comparing the resumes, and you want to have enough to jump Notre Dame in the scenario that Oregon might lose this weekend. A few other teams, obviously Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State will kind of eat each other alive. Alabama could get eliminated by losing. Cincinnati might drop a game, to SMU this weekend. But if it's going to come down to that fourth and final spot, you want to leave no doubt between you and Notre Dame because you're going to have one extra game. Notre Dame, if I might be wrong, but will not have a ranked win on their resume if they win out. So I think that's going to have to be the message to Riley that he's going to have to deliver, that we need to put it all together. And if we want to go to the playoffs, you have to do it now. And you have to do it for these next 3 straight games and hope a few things go our way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head with the expectations and how we could potentially climb that high, because at this point, if Oklahoma were to make the playoffs, they would be the one that made the biggest jump from where they are now to being a top 4 team in regards to rankings. And yes, the reason it is all possible is because of how the committee has ranked teams. However we feel about it doesn't matter. It just, the matter of fact is they've ranked teams kind of in bunches. Like you said, the Big Ten is going to beat itself up over the next 2 weeks with Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State all playing at some point in the next couple of weeks. Oregon's got a big game against Utah at Utah. They're still the underdogs in that scenario. Cincinnati, I think, still has a chance to get in. And if Oklahoma doesn't get in, I will be the biggest Cincinnati Bearcat fan if they do happen to get in the playoffs. Not that I'll ever lose my love for Oklahoma. I'm just saying, playoff game, I'll be rooting for the Bearcats. But yeah, we need a lot to happen. And I think Alabama lucked out with the Bo Nix injury this last weekend, because that was going to be their toughest game on their schedule. And now that offense might not be as effective. Not that they was super explosive, but not having your starting quarterback is going to affect you, especially going against probably the toughest opponent of the year and a rivalry game. We'll see. But there's a lot needs to happen for you to get in. Hopefully it does. At this point, I don't have my hopes too high. I just think that if it happens, I will be excited. But going back to Iowa to this weekend, I mean, we talked a lot about the running game, and obviously Brees Hall is amazing, and Oklahoma needs to establish theirs. But the passing game we haven't touched on, and they have a really good receiver in Xavier Hutchinson. That guy has been making Brock Purdy look very good over the last few weeks. He's had, I believe, 3 straight 100-yard games, I think. No, I'm sorry. So he's had he went for 112 last week, 96 the week before. And then his season high was against Oklahoma State at 125. But he does get he does catch a lot of balls against Oklahoma State. He caught 12 against West Virginia. He caught 6 against Texas and Texas Tech. He caught 8. So he gets a lot of targets throughout the game. And it's really going to test our secondary, whoever happens to be on him, because I don't think that we're going to have one corner shadow him the entire game. He's going to be going against Woody. If Woody gets to play more snaps this week, he'll be going against DJ, against Key, against who's the other one? Maybe Jaden Davis. Just depends on the rotation that is happening while he's playing. But expect him to have a good game if Oklahoma's secondary doesn't figure it out quick this weekend. I think the defense and Grinch are going to be really concerned on how do we stop Brees Hall this weekend. And I'm a little intimidated by that, because obviously we do have to stop Brees Hall, but they still have a good passing offense this year. And if we put too much attention on Brees, we're going to let Xavier eat. And really, I know that if we get beat, one of them is going to beat us, but I'd rather feel like it's a more balanced game plan. And I hope it is. I just think that the focus is going to be, how do we stop this man from not going for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against us?
Yeah. And that's the truth. And, thinking of that, Hutchinson is 6'3". Kolar's 6'5", 6'6", depending, I don't know if they measure them in cleats or not. Either way, that they're both huge. And, I think back to the receiver that pretty much dominated us most recently, is Texas Tech's receiver, Azukama. I forget how to say his last name. Eric Azukama. I don't know how to say his last name exactly, but he's 6'3", and he just dominated Jaden Davis. Granted, I know, there were a few people out, for that game, and the Sooners, it wasn't really that close, and maybe they weren't putting quite as much effort into it, but the guy is 6'3" as well. So, and Texas Tech doesn't have like a tight end like a Charlie Kolar. So you only have one Key Lawrence who's 6'1", 6'2". What do you do? And I don't know. You put Key on probably the wide receiver, I would imagine. Kind of match that up. But who comes and matches up with Charlie Kolar? I don't know, because they're going to be so committed to the run that they're not going to probably have, they're not going to double team Kolar, and they're not going to double team Hutchinson. And so can we trust those guys to be out on an island? Key Lawrence, he got burned last week, but as a corner, you can't be perfect. But overall, he's played really well. I just don't know. Like you said, they might be too committed to stopping the run, which is good. But they've got 2 guys with size, and that's been our Achilles heel. And I just think back to Bookie, and that just gives me PTSD. Now, granted, we're not going to have a 5'9" corner out there, but I mean, I think of a guy like at least size wise, Jordan Bukes, he's bigger. I don't know who's going to be able to stop both of them. And if I were, Matt Campbell and them, I would really try to set up that run with the play action. Kolar or Hutchinson's going to be open. If you give Brock Purdy enough time, which the Sooners really haven't been able to rush the passer, and if you've got Brees Hall kind of rolling, those guys are going to be wide open. And, obviously Grinch's favorite spot for the defense to be in is about 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and they'll always pick it up. So, if you're Iowa State and you're that long, you're just like, well, maybe we just run it and we probably pick it up, honestly. it's really weird to me how, whatever reason, third and long, we play really aggressive first and second down, and then we go into this weird shell defense, and then I'd like to at least get burnt, you know,
Yep.
give up the third down on a long passing play, not like a running play up the middle like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Hutchinson and Kolar are going to have a day. Brees Hall might, but he might be a better decoy than anything for him.
Yeah. No, you said it. I think you said it right. With Brees Hall might just be a decoy this weekend, and I doubt it, but he'll definitely be a decoy at some point in the game because we um I can already picture the first drive for Iowa State right now. It'll be run, and like you said, we'll probably get him in a third and long situation, and we're gonna play and pull back to a soft zone, and then he can just sling the ball to Kolar, probably in the middle, and they'll gain the first down because he's big enough that even if he's not past that first down marker, he can push through our linebackers. Because I know probably everyone that's watching, if not most people that are watching, have seen that clip of last week against Baylor whenever the line comes in and just smashes through and pushes their running back for a first down, where David Agwebu was just sitting there instead of just smashing the running back and laying it down and making sure that the play was dead. He just watches and is like trying to make a decision. Should I help? I mean, my guy's got him, but he's not thinking about, okay, well, this line can push my guy through. He's kind of hoping that the referee's going to blow it dead, and you just can't do that. And especially in big games at this point of the season, you have to finish the play. You have to make the tackle. You have to wrap up. You got to do the fundamentals, which they're improving, but you can't have those brain farts at this point of the season. And can we avoid more having those this week? That's something that we kind of just have to wait and see. It's too hard to predict with this defense. They're too inconsistent to say last week was just, last week was good and they're going to improve upon it. I really don't know. They might come out and let Iowa State score 50, and it's going to have to be a shootout. And I hope that's not the case, because I don't know if this offense can play shootouts anymore like we did with Kyler and Baker. And it sucks to say, but it's true. At this point, we have to kind of play and Lincoln's got to realize we have to play the same game that our opponents are playing, which is keep the ball away. We got to play keep away. And if we can't play keep away better than they can, we're going to be either in a very close game or facing our second loss. And would that be Lincoln's first time losing 2 in a row? I don't know.
No, they lost last season to Kansas State and Iowa State back to back. That started 1 and 2 because we played Missouri State and then lost 2 straight.
So 2 seasons in a row with two losses back to back, which is not very common.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not far-fetched for them to lose this game on Saturday. I mean, Vegas agrees. I think the line's 3.5 points and we're at home against a 6-14. I mean, if that doesn't tell you enough, then I don't know what else will. I mean, because those people in Vegas are way smarter than us, and that just it tells the whole story.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be a good game. At the end of the day, I hope Oklahoma figures it out. I think, and moving over to our second topic of the video, the rumors this week that have been actually it's been over the last couple of weeks, but they've really been getting a lot more like national attention, is Lincoln Riley going to LSU as their next head coach. It's rumored that he was offered an 8-year, $96 million contract by LSU. Obviously, I think the rumor started last week whenever he left. He was absent at media on Tuesday, and I think he also missed practice, or at least part of practice, but he said it was a personal matter. And I believe Lincoln. I mean, it's not the first time Lincoln's been rumored to other coaching jobs, pro, college, and he's always been steady in what he says. He loves coaching at the University of Oklahoma, and he's sticking around, and he's proved it to us every year. He's not leaving, and that doesn't mean that he will never change his mind. I think at some point it probably will be good for him to go to the pro level, because I mean, it's a tough job to be a college head coach. It's not a 4 or 5 months job. It's a 12 months out of the year, 7 days out of the week, 20 hours out of your day to be a college head coach, because if you're not coaching, you're probably scheduling. If you're not scheduling, you're recruiting. If you're not recruiting, you're probably doing some sort of meetings with boosters or board of regents, doing something with the school, because I mean, he's very important. He's a big influencer for Oklahoma and the University of Oklahoma and alumni. So this dude's busy all the time. I'm sure at some point, for his health and his life, it'll probably be good for him to go to the pros, maybe in like 15 years. But I don't see him going to LSU anytime soon.
No, I mean he's an extremely loyal guy. I mean, from the few years he's been with Oklahoma. I mean, if he was at a smaller school, smaller brand, smaller whatever, and you've got LSU calling you, like if Mel Tucker up at Michigan State, he gets the call from LSU, it would be a lot harder to turn them down. I mean, it's not like Lincoln's getting paid peanuts to coach at OU, and he's now got this leverage where he could leverage even a bigger contract, or he might leverage more money for facilities, more money for assistants, or adding more coaches or whatever staff. He could use that leverage against Joe Castiglione and OU. And I think he will. I think he's going to, but I don't know if he's necessarily going to try to beef up his own contract. I feel like in a way he's going to try to beef up other people's contracts and or hire new people to expand the whole coaching staff. I think he feels some sort of obligation to win a national championship, and he probably wants to win one anyway with the Sooners. Obviously, they're the first team to give him a shot. I mean, he went from Eastern Carolina as an offensive coordinator, came to Oklahoma within a couple years, became the head coach of one of the biggest brands in college football. Most coaches don't go that way. Was Lincoln Riley maybe if he wasn't there, would he have ever even got that job? Probably not. Maybe did he get it a little too early? A lot of people probably thought he kind of did, maybe. But I think he's also realizes how loyal the Sooners, athletic director, how he is and the board of regents are. And I think he feels the same. He's going to give that same loyalty back. I mean, I guess I've never been in that position where you're making so much money, but I feel like at the end of the day, if the difference between 8 and like 12 million a year, does it really matter? I don't know, because I mean it's such a different world that is it really worth all the extra headache? I feel like LSU is just you're starting your clock to get fired. I mean, you look at Coach O and Les Miles, both won national championships, can't, especially Coach O. I mean, he's gone after a couple seasons. And I just feel like why would you leave somewhere that when you think of Oklahoma, you only think of a handful of coaches. It's not a coaching carousel. LSU, it's quick. There's a lot of money, and they'll can you if you don't do it. There's some loyalty that the Sooners would give Lincoln. I think Lincoln knows that. I think he's a straight shooter. I mean, I don't think he's going to leave, but I mean, you can never say never, but I don't think it's going to come down to money for him. He makes enough, and he might even get a pay raise again. And I mean, same goes for Jimbo Fisher. I don't think Jimbo's leaving Texas A&M.
And you mentioned it with LSU, like part of the rumors is that he's frustrated with some, boosters interfering or, trying to get their voices in, and how the situation with Spencer was handled, like things with boosters and part of the board regents, the AD, whatever, that like interference from outside people is pretty much what was a lot of the rumors, is like he's frustrated with the situation at Oklahoma. But I'm sure, like, whatever school you go to, that's going to be a problem. You've got people with a lot of money that feel like because they have a lot of money, their voice should be heard. That's not special to Oklahoma. And going to an LSU is probably not, it's probably worse there. There's a reason they have so many coaches leaving or getting fired so quickly. I mean, it's been 2 years since Coach O was the national champion, and this year they're saying that he's getting fired because kids don't want to play for him. He still has kids from that national championship run. There, and I mean, it might be partially the reason, but I'm sure boosters were saying, we just don't like this guy anymore. Get him out. And they'll find a coach, good or bad, I'm not sure, but they'll find someone to take over that program, because it's a very enticing job at the end of the day. You're going to a big school in the SEC that's going to pay you a lot of money. I think it's probably going to be more of a guy like an Aranda, because Oklahoma is making a move to the SEC at some point, and you want to build a program that's going to be able to compete with those top dogs. And Aranda has shown that he can compete against Lincoln Riley. He has ties to LSU, and he can compete in the SEC. I don't see why having a guy like him isn't more enticing to LSU fans than taking a guy like Lincoln, who they always trash. If it wasn't for the rumors of the last couple of weeks where they've just been saying get Lincoln to Baton Rouge, you can probably find a lot more of Lincoln sucks, Oklahoma's overrated, they shouldn't be given a playoff spot ever again. Like, these rumors are ridiculous. It makes no sense why people think he should leave, or why people think he should get fired nonetheless from Oklahoma. And LSU will find a good coach. If I would put my money on anyone, I would bet it's Aranda from Baylor. It makes a lot of sense. Why not just go coach where you won a national championship? You built something good at Baylor, but Baylor's not going to take you to the national stage. I mean, you might have a chance, but this year you can just see like brand matters more than accomplishments, and how the playoffs are formed right now. And Baylor just is not a brand that the playoffs committee would want to put in a national stage like that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It makes sense to hire him. He's a great defensive mind, and I don't know why you wouldn't. And another thing is Lincoln is building quite the recruiting class in the 2023 class, and obviously 22 has been good. They're in the running, and they've landed a few good defensive commits. You give it a few more years, I really think you're going to see this defense take that next step, get to the SEC. I just don't see the draw to go in LSU of what he's been building. What he's inherited from Bob Stoops. He has improved it tremendously as a whole. And I know that there's still no national championship, but where we were with Bob Stoops to now is night and day difference as far as the level of talent and all the other things that come with it. I just think it's just a matter of time and being patient. And for everyone that wants Lincoln to be gone, that's a Sooner fan, just remember you wanted Grinch gone a few weeks ago, so Grinch would take over. Who would you go hire? I just don't understand this whole concept of what have you done for me lately? I mean, just give it some more time. There's not many coaches like a Lincoln Riley out there. If you fire him, what are you going to do? That's all I've got to say. And if you do, then he's going to go coach at LSU, and then LSU will play Oklahoma probably once a year when we get in the SEC. So, and then he's probably going to beat up on the Sooners because no one's going to be quite as good as him coming in.
Yeah,
as the head coach.
I think that's a fair assessment. That you don't find those kind of coaches. That's why you see programs other than Bama, Clemson, and maybe one other program, maybe Penn State with James Franklin. I mean, he seems pretty secure in his job, but that's a guy that could move if there's a team like a school like LSU that would want him. But there's not very many schools that are like stuck on their guy being the guy, not just within their fans, but it seems like within their coach, like the college, the university, they're beloved, and you don't want to get rid of that kind of guy. Lincoln has really taken on the Oklahoma personality, and like it or not, this dude is going to stick around until I think it'll be his decision to leave. He will not get fired from Oklahoma at any point in his tenure. He would really have to do either something really bad where it's, getting canceled. I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be the only reason I could see him getting fired from the university at this point, because he's done too much for Oklahoma in his 4 short years of being the head coach. So he's probably got another 10 in him at least to be a Norman. But that's all I got. Do you have anything else to say about the game or Lincoln or anything?
No, I mean, I think this game should have enough motivation for the Sooners. If they come out flat, then I just don't know what to say. And it's just they don't have it for whatever reason. But I expect them to come out, roll, rush the ball, or run the ball really well. And they're going to sell out to stop the run, and it might bite them with Kolar and Hutchinson, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it'll be a tough one. I will be stressed, maybe a little too drunk by halftime, so might have to rewatch the game on Sunday morning before we do a recap, but it'll be a good one nonetheless. If you made it this far, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Like we said at the beginning of the video, make sure to keep doing what you're doing. Write a comment, let us know what you think. Will Iowa State end up coming out victorious, or can Lincoln Riley and the offense figure it out? And is this defense going to be consistent? Can they make it 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, that they show that they have some life in them and not just get completely roasted by Brees Hall? Also, do you think Lincoln's leaving? I know some people think he should get fired. Let us know your thoughts. Go down in the comment section, share your opinion. We love to hear them. Also, like the video. Make sure you've subscribed. That helps us out a lot. That goes a long way. We get notifications from some of you guys when you do. So we love seeing when people subscribe. It's awesome. Thank you all that have done so far. If you haven't, do it. Takes 2 seconds and then you can click out of the video. We're done anyways. Thank you all for watching again. We'll see you next time.